Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Round 2, Game 1 of that March 10th, 2016 Game Night Kit. Here we've got another classic matchup, these great thematic matchups. We've got GNK replicating perfection, which wants to tax the runner's clicks. They want them to spend more clicks to do what they want to do. You want to run that remote? Well, no, you have to run a central first. Oh, but my central ice doesn't just end the run. It goes ahead and it does damage, it trashes programs, it does other stuff. And since you can't jack out before that initial run, then, well, I guess you're going to have to go ahead and break it, just taxing the credits as well as those clicks, trying to put the runner a little farther behind than they'd like to be. Meanwhile, on the other side, Hayley Kaplan is exactly the opposite. The first time you install something per turn, you can install another thing of the same type. You still pay the same full cost, but you don't use a click. So they're click compression. So we've got an epic battle of click compression versus click taxing here, as it looks like the corp starts out strong. They're going to go ahead and ice hedge fund. And with that sense, replicating perfection is known to run this big, damaging, affecting ice. Then you might not see a run first turn, and instead Hayley going to use her ability right off the bat to throw down professional contacts and a fan sight. Fan sight, one of those newer cards that lets you put a 0-point agenda in your score area. If the corpse scores, which you can later use for other card effects, does nothing by itself, but you can find cards, gain money, etc. It looks like they're just going to draw a lot of money with professional contacts, or draw a couple cards to keep them in these cards that they're installing so fast. And say, hey, if you score out quickly, you're just going to give me 2 fan sites in my score area, that's fine. So Hayley going to draw a little more here, knowing that with all these low-cost things in their deck, they can draw pretty safely because they're going to be gaining money while they do so, thanks to professional contacts. And then they've got a wealth of things they can do. Third click. We see a cash in hand, so I'm pretty sure that that's got to come down, even if it's solo. It does. That costs 1 to play, but gets you 3 credits, netting 2 credits. And then if you have an ace ops, you do. There we go. You're going to sell it for 3 more credits, netting 5. And so this deck's just going to play a bunch of things. Anything they don't need, they're going to sell. And it just works beautifully. A great engine. Meanwhile, GNK up on that asset plan right now, throwing down those remotes that gain you money and are pretty taxing to go ahead and trash. And Sundu coming out too, so they're going to get this $2 because there's an employee strike isn't already on the board, so there's no way to ignore RP's ability. You might see the runner make a play for these this turn. They have a lot of money. If they can chance one of the ice, you might chance the Archives ice. If that's a crick, there's nothing to install right now. So you could go try and hit Archives, and then you could go ahead and trash the Sundu and the pad campaign. Yeah, you'd be broke, but the corp would have a tough time of gaining more money with these two out of the running immediately. Instead, just going to be more of a setup turn, drawing more cards, gaining more cash, but hopefully drawing into some really good stuff here. And I believe that was an artist colony that was played that last click, just off camera here. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Meanwhile, install and advance. So they're pretty confident that they can keep the runner out, or at least fake the runner out. This is a trap, because Shaper, especially one that has drawn so many cards, has an easy time getting into just one server. They can SMC into whatever they need. They can test run into a FEM or other just super awesome breakers. They generally don't have a problem getting past one piece of ice, especially with all this money. And they can really just draw up to what they need, but I think that Nate is hoping that when they hit the central, something bad is going to happen to them. These have to be just monstrous pieces of ice to try and score out this early, and Mike doesn't feel ready to go ahead and hit the centrals and the remote, so he's going to let this happen another turn. Now this is starting to get dangerous. You're giving the corp a lot of money by not attacking the Sundu, at least. The pad campaign, fine, that can stay, but that Sundu is starting to be worth its weight in gold here, especially unprotected, just sitting out there. But the Global Food Initiative scored off early, a nice early 3 points for replicating profession with plenty of money. They've got assets on the table, they've got ice out. This is a great start for RP. This is what you want to see. And look at the runner's board. The runner really doesn't have much set up right now. They can go ahead and get any card they want thanks to that that combo of Artist Colony and fan site, where they could sacrifice an agenda, those 0-point fan sites, to go get any card from the deck. So it's going to be a lot harder to score from now on, especially with all this money. So Nate's got to try and bait the runner through and get them to spend some of that cash before they can make another score here. Film Critic comes out, useful for replicating or for future perfects, also for NAPD contracts, but after seeing the Global Food Initiative, how many future perfects and NAPDs are you really going to see? You've got to assume there's a Nisei Mark II, there's some other agendas in here, so I think NAPDs are right out as they go full on into this horizontal spam, not even faking one out as an agenda in the scoring area. Although they may be faking one out as just this is just an asset. You don't need to waste your turn going ahead and checking centrals. It's a move RP players are known to do from time to time, is get a little cheeky and sneak one out as one of those assets that you just don't want to spend your turn trashing. But Mike showing off the power of Hayley as it works on each turn. So on the end of the corpse turn, actually sacrificing a clone chip to get back that cash to get more money. That allows him to install a card from his hand on the corpse turn. Then at the beginning of his turn, he sells that cash for even more money, and he ends up with the other card in play, all without spending a click on the corpse turn. No res. Interesting, as he has plenty of money, but he's going to let a single card access happen. And especially interesting as now the runner gets to go ahead and trash his big money source. He does have a lot of money, but so taxing on the runner. He just went through and spent a bunch of credits getting rid of all these assets, and he hates to see another one sit there, especially because he's going to go ahead and get his best assets back in the game. Now, Museum of History is a tricky card, assuming there is a crick somewhere out there. Sometimes you don't want to put back your best cards, because sometimes people will let crick fire, which is almost always a mistake. But you know, if you just put your best card back in the deck hoping to draw it and then a crick fires, feels bad, man. It does. But as it is, you generally want those back in the mix, and this is going to make just the agenda density so small in R&D, especially since he's already splashing for those global food initiatives. But he's going to go ahead and install advance again. He's pretty confident that the runner can't get through these pieces of ice with the little credits they have, making me think that the first piece of ice isn't a barrier, because the second piece of ice I think we saw was an enigma as he was laying it down. So they can get a code gate. If the first piece of ice is a small barrier or a non-threatening sentry, the runner can still get through it. But if it's not, if that's some other big code gate or a threatening sentry, instead we see Excalibur. Excalibur prevents running again that turn and doesn't have a type, so you really need an AI breaker to get through it. Such a great piece of ice for RP, especially if the runner doesn't have multi-access right now. Then, you know, it shuts down indexing runs, then going again for other things. It looks like Mike does have an answer here. We'll see what he gets as he tosses one of his fan sites to his film credit, or to his artist colony, to go ahead and get a card from his deck and install it. He will have to pay full cost, and he is going to pay an admin for 3, which is rough, as there aren't a lot of 3-cost ice in most RP decks. There are a few somewhere here and there. You know, they can run a lot of different ice nowadays, but generally the stuff you're worried about isn't 3. But he wants to be able to run again after he goes ahead and hits that Excalibur. And now Excalibur's only 1 ice to break, so he's not super worried about it. He's going to draw a card with Proco, but if he does run again, great. Because that's what I was going to say, is that if you don't need to run again, Excalibur's free. If you just start your R&D dig and just run once a turn, Excalibur is free. But instead, Nate going to go ahead and finish off that GFI, and sitting at 6 points this early has to feel great when the runner doesn't have any points. And the runner's rig isn't even that set up. If you look at the click taxing that's been going on, if you look at just what RP has forced the opponent to do, I mean, look at the rig at this state in the game. After 6 points have already been scored by the Corp, they have an AI breaker, a barrier breaker, so not even code gates or sentries. They've got Katie Jones now, which is an okay source of money, but with nothing on it, and professional contacts. Really don't have much to sell to ASOPs unless they're not afraid of Future Perfect, in which case they can go ahead and sell that for a measly $3. But if they can get some money generation going on here, then it looks like the Replicating Perfection will be in good position. But this does give a Shaper a few turns to set up, which is deadly. And there come both technical writers, which he would have loved to see earlier. But now whenever he installs a program or a piece of hardware, it's going to eventually come back to money for him. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of cash right now, but he's not afraid of the Corp scoring. The Corp only has $3, so if he installs a card, then all Mike has to do is run, and the Corp would have to res ice defending it, in which case they couldn't score next turn. It looks like that was a Sundew that's going to be just ripped straight into a empty remote. It's a brave drawing going on here. But, yep, that is a Sundew, so he will go ahead and get his $2 back. And this is just another smart move. He knows that if the runner sets up, he's going to keep getting this money. If the runner goes to kill it, he's going to keep the runner broke. So there's really, it's a no-win situation for Mike here. And Mike is going to usually prefer to set up more and let the Corp have a few credits, and then he can contest him on ice later, than just stay super poor at this point trying to fight every asset that comes out. And as soon as the Corp rips an agenda in that remote, they can just win. So smart move here. He's going to set up more, just take more cash. He's getting in a good position. Now, it does look like he's going to go ahead and install some things. Here we go with the R&D interface, which will get him more money on technical writers. And since he knows the Corp can't score right now, he's going to go ahead and try and just block them off and probably gain more money after this. He checks R&D but finds nothing. He's going to go kill that money generator. And then he is going to load Katie. And again, he's just going to be on the money plan for now. But he does have to be careful of this Corp going ahead and just putting out something blank and trying to score it there. So he does have to do somewhat careful policing of these remotes. I still don't know if he's going to be able to score behind that, but that might be a 5-cost ice with an agenda behind it he's hoping he can trick the runner into running into with no cash. Instead, he's going to go ahead and just run R&D, keep this police going on. He doesn't want to give this Corp any chance to rip an agenda, put it down, and be back into it. But the daily business show is going to allow him to very quickly power through that ice, so just a single draw each turn will get him into a new piece of ice despite the R&D interface. Now on the downside, he's showing 2 new cards every turn to the runner, but he really doesn't care. I think he thinks he's in a race situation right here. And he's just going to go ahead and keep throwing those assets down. There's a Sundew to gain some cash. So again, this is a great play at this time because if you look, the runner just doesn't have any money. So what's he got to do? Are you going to force him to pop Katie Jones, run a central, and run that right now when he has no cash? That would just be a very rough move for the runner. They're going to try it right now just because there are 2 new cards, but goes ahead and trashes the Museum of History. That means he's definitely not going to go ahead and hit any remotes. So he's going to run again. See nothing new. $1 for a card he thinks is a pretty good trade. And then load Katie up, and eventually now he's hitting that sweet spot of Katie Jones. He'll be in the money again pretty darn soon. But money coming up big here. This daily business show allowing him to just filter himself into some money. And now with 9 credits again, RP is really a threat, especially if the runner just doesn't have any cards. So you are giving them another turn to set up. But you can almost threaten them. I say next turn might be a good turn to install Advance in that remote. He does have, I believe, another GFI in hand. And while the runner could get a lot of money off of Katie Jones, I don't know if it's enough to install 2 different types of breakers and to pay through that remote after paying through a central. I mean, it is only 1 credit to break through Excalibur at this point, but I think maybe you force them to get through, because even if they spend all that money to get through your remote, then you can just keep taxing them through it, keep putting down never advances every turn. The cash does come down, giving them a little bit more money, so they will have play on their turn. Maybe not as good of an idea with that cash out there, but I still think you go for it. Go for the win right now. Install advance, make the runner contest it. They've got to go get it, and you're just going to waste all their cash again and put them back at ground zero. And that's if they have the breakers needed. If they don't have the breakers right now, you win. Instead, he's going to go for a little bit more protection of R&D, just make this a little more taxing. This is going to extend the game a little bit, and it just stops the runner from basically free cards from R&D, basically 1 credit. We do see that SMC in hand, that self-modifying code that can get any breaker. And is that a second one I see below it? I believe so, which means that he's pretty set, except that he can install both. Has not found a console yet, or some sort of MU expander. Is going to unload Katie Jones, and we'll see what he's going to do for it. Is he going to continue to pressure those centrals? I think he knows he wants to get rid of that Sundew. He's going to see a Lotus Field, and I believe he's just going to let that one fire. Yeah, he was just doing it to get to the remote, so he's going to get rid of that Sundew, move some of his servers from off-screen back down onto the field. But you're seeing another daily business show, which the runner's just forced to trash everything at this point, because if the court finds what they need, it's basically over. He keeps the Jackson instead of the snare, which snares would be great right now to just keep baiting the runner through that remote, because he's got to think you found an agenda by this point. He just doesn't want to waste all his cash pounding away at the hand, especially if there's a nice sentry there. There goes the enhanced login protocol, so this is just going to make it even costlier to tax every time you want to run. Now it's 2 clicks, and you have to pay over all the ice. But this means you can't feed him an agenda to rake him over the ice, because then that enhanced login protocol will go away. So a bit of a trade-off there. And he's just using up all this money he got. As really, the runner's been doing a decent job of policing these money remotes at the right times. So as you can see right now, the corp down to just 6 credits, which is basically 1 decent piece of ice or maybe 2 lighter pieces of ice. But nothing too scary on the horizon here. I think the runner's in a good spot now, especially with this Gordian Blade coming out. Although I would have liked to see SMC first, and nope, he's going to throw the David down with it. So he's going to say, okay, if you've got a sentry, that's cool, but it's got to be strength 4 or less, and it can't be strength 3 because I'll break it with admin. So you've got to have a strength 4, 2, 1, or 0 sentry. Otherwise, I can deal with it. Now, Sarugi's still really good there. So is a lot of others. Really, a lot of sentries right now fit that bill, especially out of RP. It looks like he's going to go ahead and pay up and over that Lotus Field to see 2 new cards. And just wondering where all these agendas are. But guess what? There's been some careful cultivation thanks to this daily business show, earlier Museum of History, to just make R&D super agenda light. As we see, it looks like what's going to go on here. He's going to install advance, but now he has no credits to do this. This is a very risky play. Is he just going to hope that the runner doesn't run this? I mean, you have to run this if you're the runner. That's game. Unless you are sure it's a trap. And even if it's a trap, you have to run it. I mean, if they res no ice at all, you can be scared of an aggressive secretary. But other than that, you've seen a lot of influence from these daily business shows, these enhanced login protocols. So I don't know if you expect a trap here. He bounces off Lotus Field and then he just goes for it. And yeah, all he can res is the 1 credit Enigma. So really a big bluff here coming out from the corp side, and that is not going to pay off, as that's going to get stolen. And then you're going to lose your enhanced login protocol as well. But I think here's where you can start raking the runner over some coals. We see a never advance agenda down there, so he can start just gaining some money, throwing down a Cyberdex. You know, the runner has to keep running, so throw a Cyberdex in the scoring server. Now you could be cheeky, throw the Cyberdex in the scoring server, and then throw your agenda way in a remote somewhere and say, come get it. You know, oh, this is nothing, spend all your clicks, and, you know, generally they'll want to prep with money. They'll spend 2 clicks running the central. Oh no, enhanced login protocol's gone, so only 1. But then they'll try and set up and run that remote. So instead, there's some policing of R&D here. The runner's kind of in emergency mode now. They need to find agendas before the corp does. They still only have 2 points to the corp's 6, so a 2-for-1 will end the game, which I'm sure is what he's really scared of at this point. Seeing those GFIs, he probably thinks the runner, the corp is on GFIs, future perfects, and the clone retirements, or something similar, just to never advance with some sort of fast advance trick. He's got to keep the money here. Nate has to take this money at this point in the game. He just, I mean, that was so damaging last game when all he could res was an Enigma that took 1 credit to break. So he monies. He's going to go ahead and take that hedge fund. And then the last click, you go ahead and install the Cyberdex, rake that runner over the coals. Just put it in the remote and make him think it's an agenda. And just, that's got to be some big tax and piece of ice. And you can probably res it for, what is that, 9 credits? There's another enhance. He's gonna put the agenda out naked. So he's gonna trust that the runner is not gonna be able, or is not gonna just blindly spend all his clicks checking that. They're gonna do at least something to gain some money. So first click, they do a professional contacts, looking for something special here. They don't find it. Man, Nate has to be sweating right here. He played a big bluff earlier and it didn't pay off. So you've got to expect him to be on the bluffs now. I mean, you saw him put an agenda in a server that was only defended by a piece of ice that cost you 1 credit to get through. But now it looks like the runner's dead set on not allowing him to have Jackson. He does go ahead and see another Jackson, this time the promo Jackson here, but that was last click. So Nate just anxiously awaiting his turn. He wants to go through all the motions just in case there's any shenanigans with sacrificing an agenda to get something to block him here. So he's just going to slowly go through the motions and click, click, click. Score out. Beautiful game. Way to end it, RP. Just showing how taxing you can be. And then at the late game, those bluffs were paying off at the end, even if they didn't with that first GFI. And it looks like we will move into Game 2 shortly, so stay tuned for that.
It's true.